Good evening and welcome to Bronx Talk. According to the latest New York State Health Department statistics, out of the 5 boroughs, the percentage of adults who experience food insecurity is highest in the Bronx at 39%, which is obviously a very troubling number. One of tonight's guests is the founder and director of an organization that not only works collaboratively with other organizations to provide fresh food to Bronx communities, but also provides cooking demos to help Bronx people help themselves. So tonight we'll take a look at the efforts to address food insecurity and provide for a healthier Bronx. Please join me in welcoming the founder and director of Bronx Eats Incorporated, Gail Schorsch. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Let's just talk about Bronx Eats, founded in 2019. What was the concept then when it got started? What was the idea to say the Bronx needs Bronx Eats?
So thank you, first of all, for having me. As an urban farmer, I realized after a very short time that simply providing fresh produce was not enough. And Bronx Eats was founded as a way to inspire and empower people to know how to use fresh produce, because adding cooking education to food access is sort of where the magic happens. And in 2019, I founded Bronx Eats to provide both of those things under one umbrella.
Something you said there was fascinating to me because it's a concept I've heard from some of my friends, et cetera, et cetera. Urban farmer. You were an urban farmer. What does that mean and what did you do?
So I worked briefly at the New Roots Community Farm, which is on the Grand Concourse in the Bronx, and we grew and then sold on the street the produce that was grown there. So, and I also was a site coordinator for the Corbin Hill Food Project, and that was an effort to try to provide fresh produce. But again, without the cooking education, I kind of noticed not everybody is interested in purchasing fresh produce if you don't actually show people how to use it.
How to use it, and also, of course, the benefits of it. So you've always been driven by this notion of looking at urban people, at Bronx people, and helping them eat better. Right?
Yes.
So it's not something that just the last couple of years. So then we have to bring it up to date. 2019 was before the pandemic. I'm guessing things changed for this notion of food insecurity. Have you had to do anything from the original conception of Bronx Eats to comply with the needs, of course, that we have right now?
Yes, absolutely. So food access in the Bronx was always a goal for Bronx Eats, but pre-pandemic, we were focused mainly on offering cooking education throughout the Bronx. We have many, many partners, but once the pandemic hit and food insecurity became even more dramatic in the Bronx, with food prices jumping by 20% since the pandemic started, Bronx Eats began organizing to launch the Fordham Farmers Market, and now other fresh produce distribution opportunities in the Bronx. So we've taken our cooking education work and now combined it with the food access work, and really believe that when you can combine those two, you have a much more effective proposal.
Where does the fresh food come from? When you teach a cooking session, for example, you know, is there something wrong with our grocery stores? What do the grocery stores don't provide that maybe the Riverdale Sunday Market and all the other Sunday markets in the Bronx could provide?
So, great question. As somebody who started and successfully ran the Fordham Farmers Market starting last season, we completely support and want to showcase the farmers in the New York State area. We had Fino Farms, which had 3/10 of the most beautiful produce ever, and we completely believe in eating locally. That said, we operate 12 months of the year, so often our demos are in the middle of winter, and we do use supermarkets to shop for our ingredients. We're not strictly buying locally in that sense.
And what about the relationship with you and the importance of the relationship between our urban center and people generally north of us, although it could be on Long Island, who provide, you know, farm fresh food?
Yeah, I think it's very important for local economies to support the farmers, to support local vendors who are maybe making soaps or breads or other kinds of products, and we definitely did that at the Fordham Farmers Market.
And they do that at the Riverdale
And they do
Sunday
that
Market.
at the Riverdale Green Market. I am right now pivoting. Bronx Eats is pivoting to really focus on food access, whether it's local or not. So having, I think, more distribution centers where community partners will partner with me and Bronx Eats to offer fresh produce, whether it's grown in New York State or not, is really what I'm focused on now, rather than continuing the Fordham Farmers Market.
Maybe we would talk with Bronx Eats about really expanding this relationship so that the grocery stores themselves will also use the local farms maybe a little bit more. I mean, is that part of this whole dialogue? I'm just trying to think outside the box and do better.
Yeah, for sure. I think efforts to include local produce in bodegas and in supermarkets is a great idea, and I think there are people working on that. I think having local produce made available closer to where it's grown is really the way of the future, so that we don't have things happen like during the pandemic where things were sitting on a truck and it wasn't possible to transport them and then they ended up going to waste. There are also organizations that are very involved in rescuing food. I'm very interested in that. Bronx Eats is really trying to partner with organizations that rescue food and then be hosted by different organizations to then distribute that food free of charge to Bronx residents. So that I'm very excited about. It's a little bit different than the farmers market model, but that is what we are going to be doing in 2025.
Let's just talk about the chefs. You have, who are they? How do you get them to work with you? And you know, I know you have interns, you have people who volunteer. Just talk about that community that you work with.
Yeah, so since 2019, I've been working with all kinds of professional plant-based chefs from New York City, and I vet them, I work with them, I have great relationships with them. I find them sometimes through the grapevine, and the list has grown.
Are they local people generally?
They're all local. They're all local.
All local, specifically Bronx?
Not specifically Bronx. We have some Brooklyn and Manhattan chefs who I work with, but they're all New York City based, and they're all plant-based also, because the demos that we do are all focused on fruits and vegetables.
You told me, and I thought this was fascinating, that one of the next agendas is to work with organizations rather than, you know, set up at a farmer's market, that it might be more effective to work with organizations. Talk to me about that effort. Explain a little bit about what that looks like, what that could look like, and the kinds of organizations you work with and would like to work with.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I mean, we are very proud of having launched and run a very successful market at Fordham Plaza, the Fordham Farmers Market, but we now are pivoting because Bronx Eats wants to keep the focus on fresh food access more than the other things that are sort of generally part of a farmer's market. So what does that mean? We are looking for healthcare institutions, schools, we're DOE approved, and any other partner organization in the Bronx that would like to be a site for distributing fresh produce free of charge with the supervision of Bronx Eats, and would include also demos, cooking demos, using those ingredients.
We have recipes that we pulled off your website, so we can show some of the recipes. Talk a little bit about what you encourage people to learn to make that maybe they haven't already thought about in their own kitchens and when they look in a recipe book to figure out what to do.
Yeah, I don't dictate the recipes, but my chefs have made so many wonderful different kinds of plant-based salads, lentil stew, sloppy joes, tortillas, fresh green salad with all kinds of, orange miso dressings, and just you name it. We have covered pretty much any delicious plant-based recipe.
People I've just seen a couple of them. Those are all available on your website, Bronx Eats, et
yeah,
cetera,
most of them are.
One of the things which we didn't mention, a lot of the food you work on is free.
Yes.
So
yes, we're developing this new project, and we are actively counting on community partners to reach out and join us in this critical effort. We know we have an epidemic around food insecurity, and SNAP is now on the chopping block. We know Medicaid is on the chopping block. We know at least one Social Security office in the Bronx has already been slated for closure.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
7,000 people have been laid off in the Social Security office. So we know that food insecurity is just worsening, and we would love to partner with other Bronx organizations that would like to host us.
And the hosting would involve potentially having a space to show cooking demos, chef demos.
Correct. They'd invite us in. We would offer produce free of charge to the people receiving it, and we would bring in professional chefs to offer demos side by side with that produce.
They can get to you through the website, BronxEats.org?
Yes. Well, Gail at BronxEats.org is the easiest way to reach me. Gail, G-A-I-L, at BronxEats.org. I would be so happy to hear from any Bronx organization that would like to address food access.
Bronx Eats, it's a tremendous concept. It couldn't be anything more fundamental for people and people in the Bronx than eating better and eating fresher food and learning to cook, et cetera, and keep the kids healthy. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you very much.